This is the Marketing Made Easy for HR Consultants podcast, a show to help independent UK-based HR consultants get a pipeline of perfect fit, high-paying clients without expensive adverts, time-consuming social media activities, or energy-sapping and monotonous networking meetings. I'm your host, Nick Paninsky, author of How to Land Your Dream Client, a book which explains everything you need to know to get every sale and client you ever want. And if that sounds interesting, then make sure to grab your copy from the influential consultant website today. That being said, let's get into today's show. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of Marketing Made Easy for HR Consultants with me, Nick Paninsky. Last week, if you've listened along, you'll have heard you've heard all the major benefits of giving up alcohol. You'll have heard that it is a poison that kills you and it's addictive. That's the headline. And then on the lower focused area is that you'll sleep better, your skin will be better, all that good stuff. So what we promised was that part 2 would come, Kath would come along again, and we would talk about how to actually give up or change your relationship with alcohol, because that is quite a difficult bit. So thank you for joining us again this week, Kath.
Thank you for having me, Nick. Looking forward to part 2 of this conversation.
Yeah. I thought it was important to bring this on because obviously, and for me and you, we were talking last week about how we gave up, right? So for me, it was so simple. Like I was ready to give up. I picked up a book and I was like, okay, I'm done. It's done. It's not a problem. Whereas for the vast majority of people out there, that's not going to be the case. They are going to struggle with this, right? They have a different relationship, different mindset, and maybe they have a different perspective. Not maybe, they'll have a different perspective. So, so let's talk about some tactics to give up. So let's split it up. Let's talk about why it's so difficult to give up, from our own perspective, from the pressures of society, pressures of other people. And then let's talk about how to actually, and I keep saying give up, let's talk about how, strategies, tactics, tips, how to realign our relationship with alcohol. Is that all right?
Yeah, perfect. I think it's important to, create sort of inclusivity around relationship with alcohol, because any changes that you make to your relationship with alcohol that feel better, it's really important, because not everyone is going to want to embrace an alcohol-free life or quit drinking. And there's a lot of fear around what will I be missing out on? What will I be losing if I choose to, knock alcohol out of my life? One of the things I will say is that the most important thing is to be, open and curious to new information, new knowledge about alcohol. One of the things that can really hold us back from changing our relationship with alcohol is that over many years, we have developed these very firmly entrenched subconscious patterns that are just autopilot. And so a lot of our thoughts and beliefs around drinking and what value it adds to our life are running in the background. And we have to do work on these thoughts and beliefs to really debunk them, put them on trial, because, for instance, I'll just give an example of one, that to have fun when I'm socializing, I need alcohol, right?
Yeah, that's a biggie.
A real link to that thought or belief. And I know for me that was a big one, because I was very much a social drinker. And of course, if you don't have lived experience of times where you have gone out and had fun without alcohol, why are you going to think that you can? Because you are associating alcohol with fun times, right? So part of it is stepping into this mindset of, I am going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to be doing things that I haven't done before without alcohol, but that when I step in and start to do them, for instance, going to a party without alcohol, I am going to be doing that maybe for the first time in a long time, and that I don't know what that's going to feel like. And it's really about thinking, okay, well, there will be benefits and there may also be things that feel a bit uncomfortable. But I'm open to what those are. And I remember, when I started to go to parties for the first time, yes, sometimes it was a bit awkward the first 10 minutes or so when everyone else is grabbing a drink. But for me, it was about preparing. What do I say when someone asks me if I'm having a drink? Oh, no, thanks. I'm having a non-alcoholic drink. I'm driving, or, I'm taking a break from alcohol at the moment. I'm feeling really good. It was also about playing the tape forward as well as to how I felt when I got home and the next day, and feeling, strong, healthy, in control, clear-headed. All of those benefits really started to make me feel like, yes, this is how I want to live moving forward. And I think the other thing is just to be really present, and to just stick to a day at a time when you're changing your relationship with alcohol. And some people are physically dependent on alcohol, right? And so that's a different level of having to manage detoxing of some quite negative symptoms that can come when you physically withdraw from alcohol. And I just want to acknowledge that people in that type of scenario will often need medical supervision to physically detox from alcohol. And so it's really important to seek the advice of medical professional if you are someone who believes that you do have a physical dependency or addiction to alcohol, because I know that both probably you or I did not have that. And so we are talking from, a different perspective.
Yeah, certain. It was, I don't know, I'll say something. I'm not going to say anything really, because it's not anything I have any real experience of. So if, as Kath says, she's the professional. If that's the relationship that you have with alcohol, then seek out medical help for sure. So let's talk about alcohol from a society perspective. Why is it so difficult to give up from a society? We'll move on to personal perspective, like you were talking about there. I can't have a good time without alcohol and whatever else. But let's talk about it from society perspective, because alcohol is everywhere, right? So that's why it's so difficult to give up.
Yeah, I mean, we're both in cultures in the UK and Australia where excessive drinking is very normalised through not only how we're social.
Any drinking is normalised, right? It's everywhere. Yeah. Every adult function you go to, it's there. And that's difficult to then rearrange your relationship with alcohol if it's constantly on offer. Like if I was giving up heroin isn't everywhere. It would be much more easier to give that up. Whereas alcohol, all you have to do is leave the house and it's everywhere.
Exactly. So it's there in your face on billboards, in restaurants, in the supermarkets, bars on the street. Everywhere you go, you turn up to a funeral and afterwards there's alcohol. You turn up to parties, barbecues, sporting events. It's everywhere. Right? And so part of, this changing your relationship with alcohol is challenging what society has fed us, right? Yeah. Which is lies, that we need alcohol to really enjoy, get through, experience our lives. And I think for me, one of the big ones that I had was that, drinking gave me an opportunity to rebel and, be kind of a bit naughty and whatever. Well, I now look at sober life as that's the ultimate rebellion, right?
Yes.
It's ultimate rebellion because I think in Australia it's like, over 80% of adults drink alcohol. So I'm in the minority, right, of people who choose not to drink alcohol. And so I now see that is actually at being ahead of the curve. That's being kind of rebellious. And so I've been able to reframe and turn that around.
Love that.
Yeah, which I think for a lot of people that can feel really good. What we are noticing is that younger generations are questioning the role that alcohol plays more than we did. They're drinking. They are experimenting with what is called sober curiosity, which is not necessarily they're quitting drinking completely, but they're drinking less. They choose to go out and not drink at all. They may sometimes have one or two, but they are making more conscious and mindful decisions around the role that alcohol plays in their life. And I think that is actually where it starts. It starts with us looking at this drug, this substance, and really saying it's my responsibility in my life to look at it more closely, to read some books, to get some information about it, and to work out what role do I want it to play? Are there aspects now in my life that I can change? And how am I going to do that? Do I need support from someone else? Can I do that on my own? Am I prepared to experiment with it and see what it feels like, how differently I feel if I take a break from drinking for a month, and then look at it and think, oh, okay, my gosh, I feel so different. But, you know, you're getting up to that sort of, 60-day mark, which is a really important sort of milestone, because I often say that, yes, you can sort of break a habit in 21 to 30 days, but really getting that habit more into your subconscious and autopilot can take, 60 to 90 days. And that's when you really start to feel more freedom around, breaking a habit.
No, I love that. I think that's very true as well. Like, I read Atomic Habits and whatnot, and he talks about all those ways that you build a habit and break a habit, and those are really interesting ideas. I love the fact that you talk about 30 days, 60 days, etc., because we are obviously just before Christmas, and alcohol is going to be absolutely everywhere for the next 2 weeks or so. But then there's Sober January coming up, so there'll be a lot of people experimenting with giving up alcohol for that month, and I wonder if there's some advice that you can share with people that maybe want to reduce their drinking around the festive period. Maybe they want to give up for January, and then maybe they want to explore it a little bit, further on, and just say, listen, let's see how it goes. I've done January, and then I'm just going to see how it goes.
Yeah, right. It's a great time of year to be having this conversation, because often people go into that sort of Christmas festive holiday period without a plan around drinking, and they end up feeling terrible, like, drunk way more than they wanted to. Things have got out of control, and particularly at work and office parties, this can be a real danger. And I would, I guess a couple of my recommendations would be that if you want to drink less, if you want to feel better, if you want to look after your health, you have to consciously kind of make a bit of a plan before you go into any of these events, and think to yourself, well, what parameters do I want to set for myself? Do I want to drive? Do I want to just have one or two drinks? Do I want to just stick to drinking, beer or wine rather than mixing drinks? Because that can be a real danger. In terms of, motivating yourself for something like Sober January or Dry January, it's really important to find, I guess, a motivation that feels real and true for you. So you need to connect with a positive emotional why for you. So that could be that, you want to sleep better, or that you want to connect with another health goal as well. You want to get up and go to the gym in the mornings, right? And so obviously if you feel better the next day by not drinking the night before, that can go hand in hand. You can recruit, a friend or family member to join you in your decision as well. And that can be really fun. And really to look at it as an experiment and an opportunity. You don't have to think about it as forever. it's like, hey, I'm giving my body and brain a rest from this toxic substance. You know, of course I'm going to be gaining things. It's about thinking about, okay, well, if I'm normally drinking at 5 o'clock in the afternoon after work, well, why don't I instead look at another activity that I can do at that point in time, whether, you know, that's going for a walk, doing some exercise, whether or not it's starting to look at some non-alcoholic drinks that you can prepare for yourself.
There's loads of them these days.
There's
I
so
went to
many.
the pub the other day. They've got non-alcoholic gin, non-alcoholic beer, non-alcoholic Guinness. It's all there.
Growing a HR consultancy can be incredibly lonely. Your friends and family pay polite attention, but they don't really get it. And the fear of where the next client is coming from can be incredibly daunting when you've got mouths to feed and a mortgage to pay. All in all, becoming self-employed wasn't quite as fun and easy as you thought it'd be. And I get it, trust me. That's why I've set up the HR Business Success Squad, and I'm inviting you along to grab one of the limited spaces. In the squad, the first thing we do is get laser focused on where you want your business to get to and how you're going to get there. From there, it's all about making progress with one-to-ones, fun competitions, trainings, Q&As, and interacting with a fantastic group of people who are in the same boat as you. They get what you're going through and what you're trying to achieve because they're on the same path as you, so you can hold each other to account. And the best part? There's no contract. The HR Business Success Squad is a monthly pay-as-you-go membership. You can come and go as you please. If it's not for you, you're free to leave. No hard feelings, no cancellation charges, and no early exit fees. So if you're ready to create a real plan for growth with real support and people alongside you to cheer you along as you make progress towards your business goals, then visit the Influential Consultant website today and join the HR Business Success Squad.
Yeah, it's all there for exactly. There's a lot of non-alcoholic drink options. So, and that can be a really great support for people initially. You know, for some people, going to those options can be a little bit triggering for the real thing, but for others, it's absolutely a massive help. So, and I think, you know, when you think about having a break away from drinking for a month, if that feels really hard and really difficult, it's about sort of biting it off into small chunks, right? It's really about a day at a time. And, you know, the thing is, if you do decide to drink in that time, don't give yourself, you know, a massive kind of hard time. You can always reset. There's often something to learn if you do drink, if you have made a commitment not to drink, because there'll be a trigger there. There'll be some sort of emotional, physical, environmental trigger. And you can kind of look at that and think, well, what changes could I make? What have I learned from that? And how do I move forward, rather than thinking, oh no, I've had a drink, that I can just let go and blow out again. So, you know, I think the whole mindset around changing your relationship with alcohol is much more around just being open to new information, new knowledge, and taking action in life that disrupts the patterns that you've created probably over years and years and years. And it takes time to unwind those patterns.
Yeah, 100%, right? These are your behaviors. It's normal. So changing what is normal is always difficult, right?
Yeah.
My audience are HR professionals, so they know all about change programs. They know all about the difficulties.
Yes, exactly. They know all about change programs. And this is, again, it's about the neural pathways in our brain. We have these habitual alcohol pathways that habits that have developed over years, and it takes time to wind them back, right? And as human beings, we don't want to change. You know,
no.
We don't like changing. It's uncomfortable. We don't. We get feelings of fear. We want to stay in the familiar, even if it is causing negative consequences, right? So, being aware of that is important too. You've got to lean into the discomfort and the fear, knowing that on the other side, you know, we don't know what to expect sometimes. But what I will say is if you drink less, take a break from drinking, you will eventually find some really positive side effects and gains in your life.
100%. And Kath, obviously, you know, this is such a huge topic, so we could be talking for hours, and I think still really wouldn't be able to answer everyone's questions. But I'm guessing that one big one would be, you know, you go to the pub with a friend and they say, "What do you mean you're not drinking?" Like, that is going to be a big one for people, right? How do they explain to people that they're no longer drinking, you know, they're not having a drink this time, they're no longer drinking? How do you handle that one? That's a big one, right?
Yeah, it is a big one, and it's actually one that most of my clients...
We don't want to miss out on the tribe, you know, because if we lose that tribe, it goes back to that, you know, that not wanting to lose things, like you say, that mindset that we have. We don't want to change because change is scary. We're fear of the unknown. We also don't want to get kicked out of the tribe. We don't want our friends to think badly of us. So, yeah, how do we handle that?
It's a big fear. How you handle that is really, again, it's about preparing and a plan about how you communicate to people in your life. And you have different groups of people in your life. The biggest benefit in how you communicate is actually positive language around why you've chosen to have a break, rather than being on the back foot and saying, "Oh, you know, I'm having a break and it's really hard," or "Oh, I'm not drinking at the moment," because that, if you communicate in that way, people see a weakness and they'll go, "Oh, don't be ridiculous, have a drink, don't be stupid.
Don't be boring, don't be soft."
Yeah, exactly. Whereas if you get on the front foot with simple, clear messaging and say something along the lines of, you know, I was struggling with really, really bad sleep patterns and I've decided to have a break and I'm feeling much better, so I'm not drinking at the moment. You know, people don't argue. They go, "Oh, that's great." But even if they do, you know, it's still you being and owning your change, right? It's you not getting on the back foot and feeling like you need to people please, because at the end of the day, we're always going to have people in our lives who go, "Oh, you know, that's boring," or, "Oh, you're not fun anymore." That's actually a reflection on their own relationship with alcohol and not yours. So it's really about cleaning up. Okay, how do I want to present? What's important to me? Do I need to communicate with some mates beforehand that I'm not drinking? You know, often I've had clients who've been really nervous about catching up with their, you know, mates for a big weekend, right? And they're not drinking. And I'm like, tell them beforehand, because you don't want to get to the weekend and people are shoving beers in your hand and you're going, hang on. It's about being honest about who you are and what you're doing. And look, you don't have to go into all the, you know, aspects of your story, but it's just about owning it and saying, "Hey guys, I'm doing really well and I've taken a break and I'm feeling the best I've felt in a long time, and this is what I'm doing." And I think people, when they know that you're positive, when they know that you're feeling good about it, they might have a bit of a joke about it initially, but they move on pretty quickly.
Yeah. I like it. I like that, being on the positive front foot, you know, and saying why you're not drinking and having that plan in mind. Yeah. You could just, Anyway, I was about to say, you could just say that you just don't like it. Not enjoying it anymore. But yeah.
Well, it's true. This is true. Or you could just say, "Oh, didn't you know it's a poison?" And then everyone will be like, "I'm not going to hang out with you anymore."
Yeah. It is worried. I think that is the worry of people. They are worried that people will turn around and say, "I'm not going to hang out with you anymore." And the reality is, if somebody says that to you, bloody hell, they're not really a friend, are they? No real friend of yours would ever say that.
It's so true. Exactly. And look, you may lose a few friendships along the way, but those aren't real friendships, as you say. And look, what I found in my life is that I have gained so many more authentic, genuine connections and friendships, and deepened friendships in my life since I have embraced this lifestyle. So any fear that I had, I now look back and say my relationships are a lot richer now than they were when I was drinking. And I still have a lot of fun, right? I have access to more fun now as a non-drinker than I did when I was a drinker.
Yeah. I wouldn't disagree with you. I went to my hockey team reunion 2 months ago or so, and I didn't drink all night. And I had a great time. Loved it. Wanted to go to bed by about 11 p.m., which probably wouldn't have been happening if I was binge drinking my night away. But hey ho, woke up the next day, no hangover.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. You don't waste time drinking and overstaying, and you know when. And I agree with you. Like for me, I used to be the last person at a party, or an event, and now it's like, no, it's time to go home at 11 or midnight. You've had 4 or 5 hours of conversation. You've done what you need to do. And, they often say nothing good happens after midnight. And really, you know what? The people who are out after midnight are generally the people who are drinking too much, right? And nothing really interesting is happening then. It's just repetitive conversation. And yeah, I always feel really good now when I leave early. It's like, it's great.
Yeah, love it. Well, I love that, Kath. Thank you for today. I guess one message to give people that they can go away with. What have you got for us?
Yeah, so I think a takeaway here is that if you're thinking about taking a break or drinking less, it's really important to plan beforehand. It's really important to think about how you're going to approach social events. And one of the, I guess, most important things you can do is tell someone, is have someone in your corner who you can share the experience with, who you know that you can trust, and who will help support you as you make changes, whether it's drinking less or taking a break.
Love it. Okay. And we gave you a shout out last week. It was a great website. Perfect. So where does someone go to find out more about you, Kath?
Yeah, sure. My website is thealcoholmindsetcoach.com, and I also have an Instagram account at the Alcohol Mindset Coach.
Fantastic. Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure hearing about some good tactics about how to give up alcohol and how to change your relationship with it. So, yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Nick. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. And for those of you listening along at home, hopefully that was helpful, and hopefully it's given you some ideas about adjusting your relationship with alcohol, or even considering to give up in total. Either way, as ever, get marketing, because without marketing, there's no sales. And without sales, there's no business. So get marketing. Hey there, and thanks for listening to the Marketing Made Easy for HR Consultants podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, then please consider taking a minute to help us grow by sharing the episode with a friend or colleague, or by leaving a positive review on podchaser.com. And make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the upcoming episodes if you haven't done so already. I've been your host, Nick Brinsky, and if you've got any questions or you want to know more about today's topic, then feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd be delighted to hear from you. See you next time.